Welcome to I'll Marry You, a podcast with me, Olivia Coleman, full of tips and tricks from the UK wedding scene, interviews with industry experts, and a whole lot of oversharing. So, I had grand plans for this week's episode. I was going to... No, actually, I'm not going to tell you what I was going to do because I'm going to do it... for next week's episode, but I had grand plans and it was all very official and businesslike and, actual sort of legitimately helpful about weddings and what I do as a celebrant. But I can't possibly talk about anything else except the Beckham drama. I am so invested, and I don't know what that says about me, but I am so invested. And it is wedding related, so I do think it kind of counts. Very current. It only happened last night, for heaven's sake. But I messaged producer Drew this morning. I was like, hold your horses there, Sonny Jim. The world's imploded and we have to talk about it. There's a lot of adrenaline going on. Let me get my tea. Decaf. I've already had 3 cafes today. So I was in the gym, because, I'm a gym bunny, last night, and my sister messaged me. She went, oh my God, have you seen? I was like, oh my God, have I seen what? Brooklyn Beckham stories. Because that's the level of culture that we indulge in. I was like, oh my God, no. So I stopped midway. So obviously this is more important, pop culture. And I looked, OMG. I then came home and walked in and said to James, my husband, have you heard? Have you seen the news? And the news is a little bit over-egging the pudding, isn't it? Have you seen the news? He's like, oh my God, what now? I was like, have you not seen? This is huge. This is huge. And he looked me up and down and went, I feel like this isn't going to be huge. What? An outrageous assumption. The royal family? He was like, Charles and Camilla. I was like, it was said, David and Victoria. So then I told him, and he didn't even then go on to Instagram to look at Beckham's Brooklyn stories. He didn't give 2 shits, but I care so much. Okay, so if you are living under a rock, or you have been living under a rock for the last 16 hours, because again, it's so fresh, Brooklyn Beckham has released a statement on his Instagram stories to address the family feud between himself, David, Victoria, and his siblings that has been going on, frankly, for years. And I've been so invested in it for years. And he released a statement, and it is scathing. And to bring it back to the I'll Marry You podcast, in a very sort of tenuous link, it's all around the wedding. Because weddings create drama. Even if there isn't any drama there to begin with, drama will be found when you're planning a wedding and then when the wedding happens. So I'm going to talk you through it, okay? I'm going to give you the tidbits. So he met Nicola Peltz, who, by the way, is the daughter of a billionaire. I wonder if he would be saying this if she wasn't. Okay, so very opinionated on this. So they met in 2019 and they had a wedding in 2022. All the families were there. It was apparently fine. Like, there are rumours flying around, but even with the British press. Anywho, I'm just going to take the tidbits of Brooklyn's statement that are wedding related to try and make this relevant. He wrote, my mum cancelled making Nicola's dress in the 11th hour despite how excited she was to wear her design, forcing her to urgently find a new dress. Do we believe? I don't think we do. I think that she, in case you didn't notice, just to begin this tirade of anger, I'm Team David, okay? And Victoria. I don't think that's true. And if it is true, I think it's because Nicola was difficult. She looks difficult. She looks tricky. No one's that skinny and that rich and not tricky. You know what I mean? That's why I'm a little bit chubby and a little bit poor, because I'm a nice person. So I don't believe that. And also, again, billionaire's daughter, if someone pulled out last minute, that like it's not a problem. She's not going down to Oxfam wedding dress shopping. Do you know what I mean? Like, she can find an alternative. Let's just calm down there, Brooklyn. He goes on. This is another interesting one. Weeks before our big day, my parents repeatedly pressured and attempted to bribe me into signing away the rights to my name. Don't quite get that. Which would have affected me, my wife, and our future children. They were adamant on me signing before my wedding date because then the terms of the deal would be initiated. My holdout affected the payday, and they have never treated me the same since. Now, let's be honest, Brooklyn. The Beckhams are a brand, okay? First and foremost, you wouldn't have even met this waif from America if it wasn't for your parents, because you wouldn't be running in those circles. And it makes sense that they'd want to protect the name. I don't judge them for that. You know, we don't know the ins and outs, do we? We can only speculate. But again, I think that if handled properly, I think that's okay. Do you know, it's interesting. I would say at least 60 to 75% of my couples these days, heterosexual couples, she won't take his name. And that's quite modern, because it's such a, let's be honest, archaic tradition, but it is a tradition that when a man and a woman marry, the woman will take the man's name. And I've spoken about this before on the podcast, but I took James's name because Olivia Coleman's, you know, cool and a selling point. This is not Britney Spears. Yeah. Oh, God, don't get me started on that, poor lad. And I actually felt really funny about it. I knew I'd always change my name because I am super traditional. And I wanted our future children to have the same name. So I get that. But I did feel funny about it because I was like, you know, people know me as Sergeant, which was my maiden name, which is also a cool name, right? I was like, people know me as Sergeant. You know, people know me. But more than that, I was like, that's my family name. Now, I'm not comparing the Sergeants to the Beckhams, but in Herefordshire, we are of a similar ilk. And I just didn't like the idea of not having the same surname as my parents and my brothers. I got over it, but I do. It's a tricky one, the name change thing. I'm interested to see how many of my 2026 couples do the name change thing. And then, of course, some people double barrel the names, which I wanted to do because Sergeant Coleman's just Sergeant anything. It's not like his surname was Pepper, you know? And then some people create names from scratch, which I don't know if I'm for, to be honest, because let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, they're a little weird. So the name thing is an interesting one, and I think that is just changing with the times. I think it is actually going to become less and less common in heterosexual marriages for the woman to take the man's name. I have had couples where the man's taken the woman's name. I've had couples where 2 women and one's taken the other's name, and I would say 50% of my couples at least don't change their names at all, especially professionally. It's just a faff. It's just an arse to like change all the paperwork. During the wedding, this is Brooklyn again. Oh, Brooklyn. During the wedding, my wedding planning, my mum went so far as to call me evil because Nicola and I chose to include my nanny Sandra and Nicola's nunny. Nicola's nunny goes wherever Nicola goes, okay? At our table because they didn't have their husbands. Both of our parents had their own tables equally adjacent to ours. So difficult. This is actually very appropriate for a wedding podcast. I don't know why I was doubting myself. So the table thing, very difficult with split families, but they're not split families, you see. Her parents together, his parents together. They chose not to have one big table with both families. So does that indicate a little bit of tension from the get-go? I don't know. Especially with split families, it's not uncommon for the couple to have the wedding party or just their friends on the top table and then have the mum's table with her new husband and her family or his family and her family. And in a way, like what Brooklyn's saying here, have them close to the top table, but not on the top table. Some couples choose what's known as a sweetheart table, which is literally just you two, which I always used to be against because I thought you've got your whole lives to sit next to each other in silence. That's marriage, you know. No need to start now. But actually, I'm kind of coming around to the idea because on the wedding day itself, you get so little time, just you two, to chat, that actually I think it's quite sweet. I don't know. I'm undecided on that one. I'm undecided. So it's 2022. They got married in Florida, so at her sort of neck of the woods, at her £76 million family estate. It was very elaborate. I don't know. It's honestly, so he goes on. The night before our wedding, that's when shit really hits the fan because they feel like they have to say it now or never, forever hold their peace, literally. The night before our wedding, members of my family told me that Nicola was not blood and not family. Well, they're not wrong. Very difficult. Very difficult. I mean, they sound a little bit like the mafia, but then the Beckhams are like the mafia, culturally, you know? Oh, I don't know. I don't feel like that's live. Someone probably did say that. But again, it's all in context, isn't it? You know, Granny could have got a bit sloshed on the old whiskies and said something silly like that. Family, you know. He said, since the moment I started standing up for myself with my family, I've received endless attacks from my parents, blah, 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 blah. Okay, no one cares. Whoa, 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 cry, cry, cry. Woe is me. Okay, so this is the bit that I want to get into because oh God, it makes me feel uncomfortable. He wrote, my mum hijacked my first dance with my wife, which had been planned weeks in advance, to a romantic love song. Okay. Please continue. Elaborate, Brooklyn. In front of our 500 wedding guests, Mark Anthony, who, by the way, is a very famous singer, so again, first world problems, Mark Anthony called me to the stage where in the schedule was planned to be my romantic dance with my wife. But instead, oh God, my mum was waiting to dance with me instead. She danced very inappropriately on me in front of everyone. I've never felt more uncomfortable or humiliated in my entire life. We wanted to renew our vows so we could create new happy memories of our wedding day that bring us joy and happiness, not excitement and embarrassment. That is so uncomfortable to read. Like, what are you accusing your mother of? Because you've used the word inappropriate. She danced very inappropriately on me. Like, what was she doing? Was she dry humping you on the stage? Was she nibbling your ear? Or was she just a little sort of lecturers? I don't know. My mother, because we've debriefed this morning, she was like, well, she obviously just got a bit pissed and was a bit like, you know, not all over him, but just like cuddling him and stuff like that. The idea that she was inappropriate is, I think, really, that's too far to accuse your mother of being inappropriate. Like, she's your mum, you're her baby, you're her firstborn. And if there is shit going on behind the scenes, then she's got a lot of emotions and probably a lot of tequila. And that's what happened. I don't think that there's an excuse for that. I can't work out whether that was planned or whether that was a last minute, I want to dance with him. But for anyone to hijack the first dance is incredibly awkward. There's no getting away from that. And I feel like he wouldn't totally make that up. There's 500 guests there. That he couldn't have made that up completely. How it happened, why it happened, I don't know. But it's unacceptable. I don't know if I've ever told you this, because it's probably one of the things I'm most embarrassed about in my life, if I'm honest. And there is footage of it, which you'll never see. It will never see the light of day. But during my own first dance, it was a real thing for me. I have spoken about this on an older episode. It was a real thing for me. And we picked our song out, and for like 6 months before the wedding, every time James and I got pissed, we would dance to it in the kitchen and we would practice it. And I'd been thinking about my first dance to this song with whoever for like 10, 15 years. And so it was a really big deal. And I wanted the entire song. I wanted all 3.5 minutes of it. And we started, and about a minute in, at the corner of my eye, I could see my mum coming in. Now, traditionally, when you're having a first dance, you wait for the couple to sort of gesture to the guests stood around them, as in like, come on, join us on the dance floor. A lot of my couples don't like the first dance thing, but feel like they have to do it. P.S. You don't have to do it at all. But if you do it, within like seconds, they're like, come on. And they've already told their wedding party and their parents and stuff like, don't leave us out there for too long. That's not me. I wanted the full song. I wanted it to be there until the last note. And I could see my mum, and she started to go on the dance floor. And I kid you not, I don't know if this is going to play out on audio, but on YouTube you'll see it. There's footage of me, because I had a videographer, turning and like mouthing no, and like pushing my hand out, and I was pure fury. I was so angry. And then she sort of stepped back, alarmed. I don't think James even noticed yet, because he was nuzzling my neck. And then she did it a second time, like 20 seconds later, and I was like, no. I'm embarrassed. I'm mortified. It's not my shiniest moment, I'll admit. But my point is that was a really, really special moment. And my mum tried to ruin it. Again, the Sargents are like the Beckhams of Herefordshire, and she is the Victoria. There's no excuse for ruining someone's first dance. Absolutely not. Right, let's see if he said anything else of interest. I'm just so totally thrown by the whole thing. They've renewed their vows since, and the Beckhams were not invited. He went on to talk about how his family disrespect him, and won't see him, and he won't see them, and it's all about the brand and all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, what I'm taking from it is that, he's put, my wife has been consistently disrespected by my family, no matter how hard we've tried to come together as one. My mum has repeatedly invited women from my past into our lives in ways that were clearly intended to make us both uncomfortable. That is odd. But again, context. Like, if he's got ex-girlfriends that were really close to her, because when you break up with someone and you've been together a while, it's like breaking up the whole family. So, would I mind if James's mum was friends with one of his exes? Probably, to be honest, I would. Would I judge her for it? Probably, I would. I don't know. Oh, God, there's just so much to unpack. Yes, branding, blah, blah, blah. Brand Beckham comes first. Well, you know who'd come first? Me, if I was with your father. That's the other thing. They say that he has affairs, David Beckham. That's just word on the street that he's constantly sleeping around, which makes me both equal parts sad and hopeful. He writes, the narrative that my wife controls me is completely backward. I have been controlled by my parents for most of my life. Oh, poor little rich boy. Okay, I'm over you, Brooklyn. I'm over you. Do you know what? Brooklyn. I'm team David and Victoria. Okay? I think it's probably a combination of issues. I think there's obviously going to be some truth in what he said, but everyone has a different interpretation of each story. I'm not going to go into it too deeply because I made you listen to all my thoughts so far. And I'll continue to think about it because I literally can't stop, which is really pathetic. But it's really sad. And it's not uncommon at all, like I said at the start of this episode, that a lot of family drama comes out during a wedding. It does. I think everyone has high expectations of the day. Everyone has emotions. There's often always money involved, which makes people feel like they have an opinion that matters or valid or whatever. I know a lot of couples who their parents have offered to pay for things. I had friends, in fact, their parents offered to pay for it, and she said no because she didn't want to have to listen to their opinion, which sounds awful, but they're a bit of a nightmare, her parents. So it's very difficult to balance sort of pleasing everyone else, pleasing your family, doing what they want, but also doing what you want, being respectful, but also like setting boundaries. But also, again, you have to understand that when you get married, when you get engaged, 9 times out of 10, your parents, they would have envisaged your wedding day and your future partner. Obviously, and I stand by this every single day of the week, it is not about them, it is about you. 110%. It's about you two, the two people getting married. It is about what you want. But you do have to consider, I think, if you're a decent person or an empath like I am, you do need to consider that it does affect other people and other people do have thoughts and feelings about it. And just, maybe bottle it all in and then wait till you've been married a few years and just release it on your Instagram stories. That's an idea. Family, eh? Drama, 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 drama. I would like to know what family drama you've had at weddings. I've seen fights. I've seen bitch fights. I've seen men fighting in the bar. I've seen family feuds, like huge, great, big yelling arguments. I've seen people sleeping with people they shouldn't be sleeping with. I haven't seen that. But I've heard it. All sorts. People go crazy when it comes to a wedding. Couldn't tell you for why. Anyway, I'm going to go on Daily Mail now and read more about this story. And then I promise next week I will be helpful and productive. Have a wonderful week. See you next Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening. It really does mean the world. If you find this podcast even remotely helpful or moderately entertaining, share with all your friends and family. You can DM me any questions, queries, if you want to share any stories on the podcast Instagram at I'll Marry You Podcast. Get in touch. I want to hear all your tall tales. See you soon.